Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 New Jersey International Film Festival Q&A session. Today we have three wonderful filmmakers. Their films will be showing as part of our Shorts Program #1 series that'll be taking place on opening weekend. And I'll give you more information about how you can buy tickets and everything at the end of our Q&A. But today I'd like to introduce you to our three filmmakers, and we have Padrick Ritch. He's from Massachusetts. His wonderful short experimental film is called Emoticon. And then Will Rittweger is from Howell, New Jersey, and his film is Love Forbids You. And then we have Self-Defense by Joni Whitworth and Sam Tam Ham. They're from Oregon. And so we're going to be just chatting about each other's films, well, about their films, and about our film festival screening for the next 25 minutes. So welcome, everyone.
Happy to be here.
So I guess we should start this way. Padrick, tell our audience a little bit about your film.
Sure. Emoticon is a piece, I guess, kind of starting to examine a little bit of like the role of social media and technology. For me as a filmmaker, it was kind of conceived and made through the start of COVID when we were stuck at home and kind of unable to make like narrative projects, things like that. And really it was just me filming around my farm, which you can kind of see in the background here. And then trying to figure out what to do with this, and then kind of wrestling with this notion of like just between my wife and I, how much time we spend looking at, you know, these things as opposed to kind of interacting. And that's where the piece was sort of conceived as.
And you shot your film on film because I know that one of your requests was, can you show it on 16mm film? And I would love to. I mean, we were a film festival. Back in the day, we would show in 16mm, 35mm even. We run one of the longest standing Super 8 film festivals in North America as well. So it's really kind of, you know, something very dear to us. I'm sorry we couldn't show it that way.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's rarer and rarer these days.
Yeah, it's very sad to me. But at the same time, so all the images that we see you shot, there's no found footage in there.
No. Like I kind of wanted to present it. I do projects with found footage. And so I was trying to keep it in mind in the way that it was like cut together, in the way that the snippets kind of form. But yeah, that's all stuff that's really just actually shot here where I'm at. It's a mix of, it's probably 95% 16, and there's a little bit of Super 8 mixed in there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Will, tell our audience a little bit about your film.
Sure thing. So Love Forbids You, it's a hybrid between, you know, tropes and the visual aspect of film noir, and I guess the poetic, vague storyline of a dream. And what we tried to do in the film was we tried to create a story. It was very personal to me. Like I kind of saw the visuals of it. There's no dialogue, but it was very personal to me about what happened in the film, the story. But I tried to make it so that it could be personal for anyone. You insert yourself into the story, and all the characters, all the things that happen are more symbolic than, I guess, literal. So it's a black and white, no dialogue film with beautiful music, and we're looking for anyone to find meaning for it for himself.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful film. I mean, I think all three of the films are quite beautiful. Mm-hmm. All three of them are experimental, some more so than others. I think probably Will's film is the least experimental because it is a quiet kind of a narrative, but the fact that there's no dialogue and you're really not sure what the resolution is in the film, it is open-ended, that still maintains that kind of experimental structure. We have a lot of wonderful experimental films being screened on Saturday, June 4th at 5 o'clock with the Shorts program. And there's animation films in there too, and there's experimental animations in there as well. So great. Joni, if you're still there, can you tell us about your film?
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Joni. I'm a poet from Portland, Oregon, and my short film Self-Defense is a documentation of a performance art piece that I've been doing for a couple years, and I collaborated with an amazing filmmaker who I love, Sam Tam Ham, and he put together this piece with me that kind of is almost a real-time documentation of the performance itself, which includes dancing, a little bit of light singing and vocalizing and speaking of poetry. But then they also wove in this really neat use of film itself and actually etching on film. So it's kind of mixed media with drawings, illustration, etching directly onto film, and then digital film, and my singing and speaking and dancing. So we were trying to weave in a lot of different layers of performance into one piece. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how it came out. And the whole piece is exploring autism and different elements of autism.
Well, as you guys know, your films were selected from over 660 plus works that we received. I mean, I keep saying that there was 29 films, but I'm looking at it again. It looks like we have 30 films that we're showing out of that number. And our judges loved absolutely every one of your films, and they all had comments about how they challenged perception, you know, about media, about film noir, about autism. And I think we're always looking for creative, original films, and all three of the films that we're talking about here are very original, and that's kudos to you guys. Now gets to be an interesting part. Since you've all watched each other's films, does anybody want to jump in and comment about one of the other films that you saw? Anybody? Or should I pick one of you guys? I'd rather it be free-flowing, but if nobody's game, then I'll pick on you.
Something I found very interesting in Joni's film that was similar to the one that I made with my collaborator is very poetic. You know, it's kind of like there's no sacrifice, I feel like. And people often talk about when something's poetic, there's a sacrifice. You don't understand the meaning, but I actually disagree. I think you kind of leave the meaning available to different people. And with Joni's film, it's like when I was listening to the words and I was watching, it was you on screen. When I was watching Joni on screen, I was interested because I wasn't exactly sure what was going on in a few moments here and there. And then once the language kind of set in, I kind of felt it and I understood it. It wasn't like I could cognitively like know the story. Oh, this is happening. This is happening. It was like, I don't know, kind of soaked into me. And that was something I strive for, but that was something I definitely saw in Joni's film it was more poetic and it kind of soaked in and it came to me over time, what everything meant. And I like that.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, thanks for calling that out, because I was curious about poetic elements and poetry in your piece and just like how you think about direct language or kind of explaining everything for the viewer versus letting them, as you said, feel into it.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, you had a comment too?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on Joni's film. What I really responded to is the choreography, the way it was filmed, and then also as the film progresses, just how that choreography actually takes on additional meaning. And I think Will, it's a little, maybe I'm reading into what you were saying, but that was kind of what I was really responding to in it, was how it wasn't just the spoken word element that actually was kind of layering on top of the content. So I thought that was really impressive.
Well, Emoticon has repetition as its main kind of vehicle or engine. And I think repetition is also present in Joni's film. You get the sense there's repetition also in Will's film because it's borrowing the tropes from film noir, but then of course, so there's that aspect of repetition as well. But what do you guys think about using images over and over again? Is it a kind of comment on society and how we're bombarded with information and repeatedly so? Was that something that was also of interest to you in your film? Or am I dragging straw? Padrick, since yours is obviously doing that, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, for me, like I always try to be careful because, you know, Will mentioned this, like I like I want the audience to kind of take away some of their own meaning in relationship to it. But for me, in the construction of the repetition specifically in the footage that was used, at first it was trying to take something that was kind of, you know, sweet and pretty to me, which is like my dogs, my house, our farm, my wife, and sort of kind of break it up into these fragments that took away sort of the, I guess, kind of like sentimentality of it. But really it was also then started to play on this idea of like, what are the things that when we pull our head up from our phone or from our tablet that are happening around us that we're not really engaged in. And so like, that was kind of like, once I started to break them up, that really started to become the kind of driving force of how the pace of the edit went to go along with the voiceover. Was
the voiceover first or the images first?
Images first. Actually, the film screened here with a local collective, AGX, without voiceover last August, and then I was always toying with it. I always knew that I kind of wanted to put it on there, but I did a version with it without at first, just to kind of see how it did, and then ultimately decided that I wanted to use the VO.
Yeah, definitely. I think it enhances it.
Yeah.
There are some experimental filmmakers that poo-poo sound, you know, as kind of being redundant, but I think that's the whole point of your film.
Yeah.
I think this adds an extra layer, which leads me to Joni's film, which also has this kind of repetition, and it's, I kept on thinking of the term echolalia. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a psycho.
Oh yeah.
It's a psychosomatic. I actually made a film with that title many, many moons ago, about you know, people who repeat what is said to them, and it's a psychological disorder. And I kept on thinking somehow there was that echo that we have in your piece that syncs up nicely at times and then diverges. So when you were kind of crafting your visual, because you couldn't do that as a performance piece, right? Was there projection for the actual performance piece?
Yeah, projection, like kind of live in the moment onto my body as I was performing, yeah.
Okay, so it's live images and then you kind of project it on top of yourself? Is that how it works?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So how does this film differ from the performance? Because obviously, you know, when you're projecting on top of yourself, everybody's seeing you in long shot. There's no way to, you know, live-wise, your physical body is being seen from head to toe by the audience. So when you're projecting, how are you able to translate that onto film? And were you, do you think that the film brings it a different dimension than it would be live?
It definitely does, and I'm glad you brought up the echolalia, because it's that's not something I personally struggle with as an autistic person, but I know that many autistic people do. And maybe struggle is even the wrong word, because for some people it's just a fun part of their speech pattern.
Yeah.
But for others it can be really prohibitive and actually limit their communication or be a huge barrier in clear communication. And that was something I was thinking about translating the stage piece or the performance piece to film, is how can I maintain very clear communication knowing that there's no audience? Because when I have performed this for live audience in theater spaces, it is pretty raw. They already know it's very personal. It's pretty vulnerable. And so as a performer, you're feeding off of their energy and people are responding directly. I've had people cry or kind of gasp when it gets to the kind of more triggering part, or it's not very funny, but I have had a couple people laugh at different parts. So you're feeding off of the energy from the crowd. And in this one, we just filmed it in a very small studio in Sam's garage, and we had no audience at all. And so we really had to conjure, you know, a conception of the audience and the viewers. And also a big part of it for me too is conjuring this image of this character who is trapped in an abusive situation in a mental hospital, an institution for children. So basically focusing on that and trying to bring to the screen that emotive power was one of our main goals.
Well, you know, I teach an experimental film class, a couple of them at the university. I have been for over 3 decades. And there's a long history of films being shot almost like a pas de deux with the camera, you know, a duet with the camera. And I felt as if your film, and, you know, certainly fulfills that, that type of film. But yours is so much different in the sense that it expands the screen and it sucks the viewer into your world, which I think the others kind of push you away. There's some exceptions. I think Bruce Connor's Breakaway and Norman McLaren's Pas de Deux film are a little bit, they draw you in. Was that something that when you were making the film, was it meant to be, by kind of doing direct address to the audience, you were bringing them into your world? I mean, that was premeditated, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And Sam and I went back and forth about that of, okay, well, you know, oh, it's a movie, you know, should it be more narrative? Like, should we try to rent a room in a mental institution? Or, you know, it was originally, I was kind of heading in that direction of, you know, a stage and a set and lots of scenes and props. And it was feeling more performative and less authentic. And Sam is such a great kind of ideation partner and collaborative partner, because they were basically just like, I don't know, Joni, this piece is very vulnerable and personal to you, and I think a lot of that story can be told through your voice and gesture. And so they would kind of zoom in. A lot of the shots are super close. They're right on my feet or right up close shots on my hands or my face, which was quite introverting. I'm not an actor. I'm not trained at all as an actor or anything. So it was quite introverting to have so many close-up shots of my face. But I do think the willingness to go there with that vulnerability and raw emotion helps the audience come into your world and see like, oh, damn, this is real.
It definitely feels genuine. And I think that's, the jury a lot of them mentioned that. So, but when we talk about acting, I know Will is an actor, and he acts in his own film along with his partner, Wendy Lee, who is also involved in the making of the film. She plays the medium in his movie. And acting is a strange beast. You either become yourself or you don't. And Will, do you see yourself as an extension of yourself in the character of the detective in your piece, or is it somebody else?
I think for me, it's like the idea that everyone is not just one person. They're made up of sub-personalities. Different parts of you want different things. I guess that's why I feel like I'm an adventurous person, is because I have these different parts of myself, different parts of my upbringing want different things. And the character of the detective, the seeker, he's a big, I feel like that's a big like element of my personality, because I'm always looking, I'm always thinking, I'm always analyzing about things, and I just need to give it an aim. I need to give myself something to think about, read a book, watch a movie, and there I go. So I think it's a part of myself, and I just try to tap into it. Yeah.
Cool. Wonderful. And I guess the last question goes to Padrick. Padrick, your film, did you feel like you might wanted to make it longer? It's only 2 minutes long. For me, I think it's a perfect length, but a number of the jurors thought they wanted it to be more bombarding. They wanted it to continue its acceleration. And I said, well, you know, it's the filmmaker's vision, and they wondered if that was the case, that you felt short and sweet, or you know.
I mean, it's part one of what I plan to be a 5-part series.
Oh.
So like, and I'm in the works on a couple of the other ones now, but we'll see. So it's going to build, but each kind of, I guess, chapter or section of it is going to be its own, like the goal is to have it be its own standalone piece as well. For me, the 2 minutes, like I was trying to keep it under 100 feet of film, which is basically 3 minutes or less.
Right.
And it was very intentionally done to be as short as it was, I guess. I didn't think there was much more to gain by continuing that process. And like, you know, like you can look at like a JJ Murphy's Print Generation, which is like 50 minutes of, you know, this. And like, so like, I mean, like, yeah, different films can work in that repetition style for different time lengths, but for this particular piece, it just was like, make sure it's under that 3 minute mark. And really, I think it runs in at like 2 minutes, 11 seconds. And that felt exactly right. I think that was the, I'm not a good composer. I mess around and make noise. And that was as long as that synth loop I created lasted. So that was
for me.
Yeah, that was the length of the
definitely
piece.
cool. I mean, it for sure comes from this kind of the structuralist films of the 70s.
Yep.
That I kind of was weaned on when I was in film school or doing my degree in film. So but I still think it's very 21st century. You know, it's analog. Yes, it was shot on film, but it's so digital. And I just felt as if that it was very tight. So mazel tov to all of you guys. Congratulations, your films are wonderful. I'd like to share screen and tell our audience how to be able to get tickets. So I'm going to share. This is our sharing of the screen. I can move this over and cover this up. So you get to our homepage, which is njfilmfest.com, and you can scroll down or click on current events. And normally everything would pop up here, but because we are a hybrid festival, that we are partnering with Eventive, who's done a lot of film festivals. They saved us. They saved a lot of film festivals who normally were live exclusively during the pandemic, and we've been using them now. This will be our third cycle using them this summer. And they do a great job, but basic information is at our normal webpage. And the idea is to have people to click on the buy tickets link, which bounces you to our Eventive website, which is the welcome page. And the welcome page gives you basic information. You click on the schedule, you get a linear version of the schedule. You click on film guide. There's individual listings for each one of the films we're showing. You click on the buy all access pass. You can buy an all access pass for $100, which is a really great deal. If you plan on watching everything, it'll save you 50% of the cost there and abouts. And if you just want to buy one program, they're $15 each. But if you click on the tickets one, that opens up our catalog page where everything is elucidated. And they're broken down by types of films. And our experimental program is on the 4th. And we get to see Joni here since we had technical issues and couldn't really show her. But here are some of the other films that are playing. Once I Passed is an animated experimental film by Martin Garrick, who's a previous entrant at our festival. And this is Joni's movie, and you can get blurbs on all of the films here. We're showing a wonderful animation called A Cartoon of a Cat Sleeping. Chiaroscuro is also by a performance artist. She's from your neck of the woods, Padrick. Asia Vo, she's from Massachusetts. Love Forbids You is Will's film, and here's a shot of Wendy at the doorway. Gruff and Me is a animation film from Israel. It's won a ton of prizes. It's really done well on the festival circuit. Tundra is an excellent film by a filmmaker from Havana, Cuba. And this is also an amazing film. And then Unforgotten is an animated experimental film by Sujin Kim called Unforgotten. And she's from Arizona. So the way to buy tickets, you can gift them if you want to give them as a gift, is click on this button. It'll show you how to do that. You click on pre-order. It'll ask you to register, which is just basically your name and email address. You got to do that before you can buy anything. And then you just click on the button and you can buy tickets to the show. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to thank you guys for joining us today. And I look forward to sharing your films. Oh, I should say that this program is going to be available live in person at 7 p.m. I know Will is going to be there. I'm not sure if anybody else is going to be there because most of the folks are from far away. But we will be doing that live screening at 7 o'clock in Voorhees 105, which is our scheduled screening space. It's a state-of-the-art, got high-def video, seats about 200 people. And I have no idea what the turnout's going to be like for our live screenings because we haven't done them in so long. But you can also watch it online for 24 hours on the show date, which is the Saturday the 4th. And if you start watching at 6 p.m. on the 4th, you have 24 hours to finish watching it into the next day. So it's a really great deal. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and to answer questions about your movies. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.